I wanted to do another video out here at the beach about a week later to show you guys the difference, just how much the ocean changes out here after one of these storms, and really just day by day, because I took some footage a couple days right after the hurricane was already heading up north, guys. It was already by South Carolina, but it was throwing off some huge waves over here. I'll put up some clips so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Look at that. We got umbrella chasers out here. Oh, she got it. Guess you see how windy it is, huh? Now, one thing I read today that is just music to my ears is just how many home buyers are canceling contracts, and sometimes over minuscule things. Now, that's not always a good thing. Sometimes it's disrespectful or just plain dumb depending on the situation. But I want to go over some of these things that are happening out there. As it turns out, more and more home buyers are starting to ask for a lot more repairs to be done on the properties, and people were making offers left and right last year just as soon as the properties hit the market. Well, now things are different, guys. Now they're coming back. They're looking at the property multiple times, bringing their spouse, bringing their kids, bringing everybody, asking for repairs, asking for help for closing costs from the seller, all kinds of things that you would never see happen just a year ago, but that were normal in the housing market prior to all of this. And if you ask me, that's good news for everyone. You need to scrutinize the properties that you're looking at buying right now, especially with these ultra high prices and ultra high interest rates. If you are out there buying, you do need to be extremely picky and careful right now. In August, we had about 64,000 canceled home contracts, which equals about 15% of all of the potential deals that could have closed in August. And the average is usually about 12%. So 15% canceled is about 3% more. So it is more than the average. And on top of that, we have existing home sales falling in August as well when it comes to the amount of closed sales. Closed sales fell about a half a percentage point in August. Now, the median home price is still up 7% year over year, guys. However, month to month, it's down 6%. So it's important to pay attention to these things, because even though it might look good on the surface that home prices are up year over year, they're falling month to month, and that can easily turn into a year over year decline by next year, which is what I anticipate is going to happen. Unlike CoreLogic, they think that next year we're still going to see a 3% increase in home prices, but we'll see. But people are canceling contracts for all sorts of crazy reasons right now, guys. People are going in and saying, well, I did more research on the school district, I'm not happy with it, I'm pulling out. Other people are saying, well, I didn't realize that this third bedroom was as small as it is the first time I looked at the place, so I'm bailing. And I think those are legitimate reasons to back out of contracts, especially under these circumstances. Like I said, you know, things are still extremely expensive out there, and you are going to pay dearly for a mortgage right now. So if you're going to be doing that, you need to be that scrutinizing over the property. And I know this doesn't make a lot of real estate agents happy, and you might even be surprised to hear me say that as a real estate agent. But to be honest, guys, this is the type of advice I've given my clients all along. I've never told people to, you know, just go in and buy something without paying attention to these things. I've always been an advocate for crossing your T's and dotting your I's in every single transaction, no matter what the market's doing. So I'm happy to hear that people are doing this. But some people are pulling out over just ridiculous reasons. Like, there was a story about one buyer pulling out of the contract because the garbage disposal had a leak. I mean, if that's your only reason to pull out, to me, you were probably never really serious about buying that property to begin with. And there's probably more to it than that. It's probably more like, yeah, I've really decided I'm not going to buy the place, probably because the interest rates are actually too high, or I changed my mind on the neighborhood and they just give some BS excuse like the garbage disposal's leaking, things like that. So whatever, people will do that. Another real estate agent is saying every single house they've closed in the last few months, that every single buyer has asked for like at least 10 to 20 things that the seller needs to fix before they'll close on the property. So, and a lot of times people are obliging. The sellers are saying, okay, we're gonna do it because they want to sell. And this is what I was telling you guys before. Sellers who are serious and really do want to close on the property, they're gonna do this stuff, guys. They're going to do what it takes to sell, because if that's your only option, this is the only buyer you got on the hook, you're gonna lose them over a few $1,000s in repairs? No, you're gonna do it and then move on with your life. Get the place sold. I got the whole umbrella rental scene over here, right over on 71st Street. You can come over here, rent an umbrella for the day. I'm not sure how much they charge. Probably have a sign around here somewhere. Now they do have some advice in here for sellers as well, like what should I do to prevent these things from happening to me? There's no guarantee that it won't happen to you, but one thing that I've always advised my seller clients to do that none of them ever did, guys, I've never had a single seller do this, even though I've advised them to do this, and that is to get your home inspected before putting it on the market. Hire an inspector, pay the $400 or $500, whatever it is, find out about the problems ahead of time, and either offer credits in the listing that you're going to give the buyer to fix these things, or make the necessary repairs before putting the place on the market. That way you kind of are proactive on the situation. You can find these things out before the buyer does, and they're going to come at you asking for all sorts of discounts and credits. So, but nobody ever wants to do that. Nobody ever wants to spend the money up front. All the sellers, not all, but a lot of the sellers I've worked with, especially here in Miami, guys, they think that they have gold-plated floors, that their home is worth millions of dollars, even if it's a piece of garbage. So that's the reality of most sellers' mentality, at least the people I've dealt with. Of course, there have been people who are level-headed and, you know, are realistic on the market and the price and everything. But more often than not, most people are like, yeah, you know, we're gonna list it high, we'll lower the price later, I'm not doing anything to the house, I'm not giving any credits, I'm not doing any repairs, I'm not doing anything. And then, well, if that's you right now, you're also not going to be selling. You're not going to be doing that either. So if you are a seller out there right now and you actually do want to sell or you need to sell, be prepared for people trying to beat you up on the price. You know, now they're going to be offering less. They might walk away from the contract over stupid little things. So be ready for this. Be ready to lose 2 or 3 deals before one goes through, because this is probably going to become the new norm with these increased interest rate hikes, because less people are going to be able to afford it. So guess what, guys? Your pool of available buyers out there is shrinking by the day right now. So to just think that you're going to get top dollar and top offer and no complaints, no contingencies anymore, those days are over. Another interesting thing I read today was about the usage of cash and how many people still use cash to pay for regular items, or how many people use cash once a month, things like that. And I have to first off say that I'm guilty of not really ever using cash unless I have to. Like if I go to a restaurant or a store where they only accept cash, then I'll pay cash. But otherwise, I use my credit card to get the points, and I just pay off the bill every month like we talked about in a previous video. You know, you get the points, your credit score stays really high. You know, it's a win-win for people who can do this and not stay in credit card debt, right? And in this survey, about 60% of Americans say that they still pay for at least some of their typical weekly purchases in cash. So I was actually surprised to see that it was that high, that 60% of people are still using cash for some of their regular purchases. It's higher than I thought it would be. And adults who are 50 years and older are way more likely to have cash on hand than people who are younger. Now, I do carry cash in my wallet just in case I need it, but it's just for that. It's just in case I need it. It's not like I'm out there paying cash for everything. So right now, you have more than half of young adults, 50 to 54%, they don't worry about having cash in their pocket right now. So you have to look at this and think, well, the young people aren't using cash as much as old people, and this could be a dying trend. And I'm guilty of this too as well. And the reason I want to talk about this is because there's this idea that there's going to be a national digital currency, the CBDC. That's something that the government is pushing for right now. And, you know, it's a scary thing if you ask me, guys. Now, I'll be the first to tell you that if something like this gets introduced, they try to push this on people, and they try to make it the new norm, I'll be the first one to switch over to cash and pay cash for everything that I can to fight against this. Now, obviously, some things you just can't pay cash for. You can't pay cash, you know, when you're buying stuff online from Amazon or Walmart or whatever, but anytime you can pay cash, then I wouldn't mind switching if it meant the difference of, you know, keeping money in our pockets versus everything being digital. Because once that happens, it's game over, guys. You have no privacy left, and obviously it opens us up to some very dangerous actions by the government, potentially controlling your spending and shutting down accounts, things like that. So that's the last thing anybody wants to see, and I'm bringing this up now while it's still early, while this isn't happening yet, because we have a lot of things that are happening right now that people wish wasn't happening, like with inflation, right? We have that. So you got people complaining that, oh, everything's too expensive now, they printed all this money, what now? Well, that could have been prevented, and obviously that's not something in our control, but this is. We can still dictate the way we buy things with the type of currency that we use. And yes, is cash old-fashioned? Is it really necessary anymore? Obviously it's not, but what it does, guys, is it provides anonymity and privacy, because without that, think about it, you can pay cash for anything you want to and nobody has to know about it, right? There's no record of that transaction, and it's obviously one of the reasons why criminals have operated in cash over all the years, because it's untraceable, right? It can't be tracked on how much cash they carry or what it's spent on, etc. Let me know if you guys, you know, use cash on a regular basis. Like I said, I rarely use it, but if it came down to it and I needed to start using it in order to prevent something like the CBDC, I would be all in, because I don't want that to happen, and I hope it never does, guys. And the one last thing I have to say about that is don't confuse yourself for the CBDC being Bitcoin, okay? A lot of people don't know anything about cryptocurrency. The government, that's going to be their trick. They're going to say, oh, this is just like having Bitcoin, guys. It works exactly the same way. And while the electronic aspect of it works the same, nothing else is the same. Bitcoin is finite, okay? There's only ever going to be like 21 million Bitcoin. That's it, okay? But with the CBDC and the digital dollar, just like the printable money we have now, they can make an unlimited supply of it. So it is nothing like Bitcoin because of the principle behind it, okay? So everybody needs to be aware of that. Right now, more and more car buyers are starting to spend well over $1,000 a month on their car payments. And the interesting thing about this is the proportion of people doing this is higher who are buying electric cars. Well, that's not really a surprise, because electric cars cost more than gasoline-powered cars. That's pretty much the way it is. So people who are buying electric cars are going to be forced to spend more money, and therefore their monthly payment is going to be higher. Kind of a no-brainer, right? But it's not just people who buy electric cars, guys. It's everybody out there right now looking to buy a new car. The average cost for a brand new car in the US right now is close to $46,000. That's the average price, okay? And overall, 14.3% of consumers who finance a new vehicle in the third quarter of this year committed to payments at or above the $1,000 mark. That's up from 8.3% of people doing that at the beginning of the year. So the amount of people who are having car payments now over $1,000 a month has literally almost doubled just since the beginning of this year. That's how expensive it's getting to just buy a car right now. The interest rate on new car loans is up to 5.7%, and about a year ago it was 4.3%. So the auto loans are not getting hit quite as hard as the mortgage rates have gotten hit. I mean, it has gone up, but not as significantly, right? But when you combine the higher rate with the higher cost of these cars, I mean, it's going to cost more, guys. So are you signing up for a $1,000 car payment during the recession? I know I'm not. I'm not going to be doing that. Here's another really fascinating thing I heard about today, and that is in areas that get hit by hurricanes, typically preceding the hurricane, home prices tend to appreciate in these areas that get hit by hurricanes higher than the national average shortly after the hurricane. And I want to bring this up because I pretty much did a full video a few days ago about what might happen to home prices here, especially in Florida, areas that got hit hard with the hurricane. And my prediction based on past hurricanes was that initially it's going to take a hit, right? At first, it's going to make the area undesirable due to uninhabitability, right? It's going to be difficult to just live there. Everything's leveled. You know, it's not an appealing place to be at the moment. But once things get repaired and you start seeing life come back to normal, you can bet people are going to be rushing back in to buy in these areas. And that's exactly what this article is saying. And it kind of backs up what I think is going to happen as well. There was a study done that showed areas that get hit with hurricanes will see typically real estate values climb 7% above the national average within 12 months of the storm making landfall. So within only 1 year, you could see a 7% above national average appreciation in areas like Fort Myers and Sanibel and Cape Coral, these places that got hit really hard. I don't know, man. I mean, a year seems pretty fast. I don't know if they can get all this fixed up in just a year's time. We'll see, but it will be interesting to track. And of course, when there's an update on this and we have some actual data to look at, I'll be sharing it with you guys here on the channel. And the reason for this is pretty simple, just like I outlined and they explain here in the article. The reason you're going to see home prices jump are two basic principles. You have the first and main principle, which is supply and demand, okay? You remove housing from any given market and it's still desirable to be there, prices are going to go up because there's just less inventory. And think about the places that need to be rebuilt. They're going to be a brand new house there versus an old house from 50 years ago. Well, that has more value now because it's brand new, hasn't been lived in if someone wants to sell it, and also it's built up to a higher code, a higher standard than the previous home that was sitting there. And people are still going to come to these areas, guys. A lot of you have said it in the comments. I did a poll on the channel. A lot of people are still going to move to these areas regardless of how susceptible they are to hurricanes. That's pretty much a given at this point. I think one of the biggest factors for people besides the price is going to be insurance, because the average cost for homeowners insurance in Florida right now is $4,231 a year. That's about 3 times the national average. So if you're going to be moving here, especially in one of these vulnerable areas, get ready to pony up the dough for homeowners insurance, because like we've talked about many times, this is going to be the #1 problem that the housing market's going to be facing here in the near future. I don't think it's going to be hurricanes. It's not going to be anything else. It's going to be homeowners insurance and potentially flood insurance too. There was even a real estate broker in the Fort Myers and Cape Coral area saying, well, our prediction before the hurricane was that prices were going to go up about 2 to 3% next year, but now when you add in the hurricane premium, it's probably going to be closer to 8 to 10%. So I'm going to put a note on my calendar 1 year from now to see exactly where prices went in this area. So obviously it's going to take a year to get an update on this, but when that comes, I'll be sure to report it to you guys. If you guys want to see more videos like this, all you got to do is hit the bell icon down below this video. YouTube will send you a notification every time I put a new one out, so you can be one of the first to watch. And if you don't want to wait for that, then check out the next video on the screen right over here, and I'll catch you guys over in the next one.